Lion Hearts. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion, your old pal Ja. Cruising our way up Beechwood Canyon on our way up to the Hollywood sign. We're not going to vlog the Hollywood sign, but we're going to take Ja up to that park up there and let him play around because I am going to do Jay Ryan and Nicole Ryan's podcast today. It's tonight's show. And of course, we want to let Ja play as much as we can before we go do that because they're such interesting people. I might make them the focus of the vlog today. Jay has a pretty interesting side of his life that I didn't get to talk about at all in my last vlog with him, so I'm hoping to do that today. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. Hello, Hollywood land. There it is. Yeah, we haven't been out here in a while. A lot of times there's no dog action, but there's a few dogs here today. So what I'm hoping to talk to Jay Ryan about today is he not only has an enthusiasm for Porsches, but he also has been a member of quite a few different teams that have restored or made identical replicas of some pretty famous movie cars, and I want him to talk about those because one of them he did, I actually saw a video online where someone said his car came out more accurate than the restored version that they ended up doing later on, or maybe even earlier, but his version actually is the most accurate. And he also was a part of another project for another famous movie car and bowed out of it on principle. I think it'll be an interesting talk.
Yoshi, come. Yoshi, you can't eat the baby. I told you no babies before lunch. You heard a squeaky noise. Hey.
So also another bit of news is I believe I'm gonna take off and go on a little mini vlogging trip here in a few days and get to go vlog some things that I've wanted to do for quite a while. Gonna squeeze a lot in. I'll probably make 2-3 vlogs a day, hopefully, because there's a lot I want to see there, but it should be a really great trip. I will keep it a secret until I get there. Now there's a ton of dogs out here. He's having a blast. He's over there playing. All right, we're out of here. All right, let's go off and do It's Tonight's show. All right, we are back. We are back to the famous It's Tonight show set with the David Letterman chairs and desk and microphone. And today, it's about me, go figure. So this is gonna be my view from the interview desk.
Jordan the Lion. You were out and about for hours earlier.
Yeah, it was great. My legs are just dumb, but like talking got my brain working. It's awesome.
Did you say dumb or done?
I think I said dumb, but it's the same thing. They're just today. They're just rough today.
So then, our fantastic guest today, Mr. Enthusiasm, Mr. Positivity, Jordan the Lion is here.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about? Had that conversation before the show?
Some of this stuff is so odd, and it doesn't make sense if you're not in the military why you have PTSD. So a lot of people struggle with that. Like, I've got to be the only one.
This is again what I was talking about. There is, like everything in the world, there are so many variances. You know what I mean? Bad relationships can give you PTSD. A car accident can give you PTSD. Certainly, being blown up in a different part of the world, defending a country, can give you PTSD. Of course, but so can, like, you know, tripping down the stairs and spraining your ankle. I'm more careful every single time going down the stairs since that happened to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
It's all of this really comes down to learning and how much you're willing to unlearn to learn more.
Yes. This is, yes.
Sorry, anyway.
Whatever. Heads up, people learn and unlearn differently, and it's in your brain.
And by the way, yeah, all of that is just me. I hate like this. You should do this. I'm not that guy at all. I really am not.
That's what I loved about the city, was like there's different ways to combat this. So look, take some time.
Observation can do a world of good in general.
All right, Lionhearts, we just wrapped up the interview that I did. Now we're gonna have Jay on here, so make sure you watch my my little appearance on It's Tonight's show. It's probably already up, but now we're gonna talk to Jay about something that I really find fascinating about his life. Now to change things up just a little bit, Jay had the idea, he said, why don't you sit behind the desk? So I will actually get to sit behind the David Letterman desk. All right, we're back with a familiar face. I just saw this guy last week, as did all of you Lionhearts. But what I didn't know is that Jay has a very interesting side of his life that goes way beyond this amazing desk that I'm having the honor of sitting behind, the Letterman desk. But he kind of mentioned to me that he has had this interest in cars forever, and I started looking around online after I left here, and I saw a video of Jay heading up an ECTO 1.
Uh-huh.
So you have been responsible, or you've been a part of these classic cars that we love from movies, like the Back to the Future car and the ECTO 1. You've been a part of their story.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So, well, where did it start? What was the first car that you had a hand in doing anything with, as far as that world? Restoring cars or making replicas, or where did that come from?
I was just a kid. I mean, really, this is where it all came from. I was a kid who replicated all this stuff. It started with the microphone back then, from the other day.
Yeah.
So that's when it started. It got transferred into movie cars because it's the same thing. Oh, this was movie props, TV props, movie cars. Back to the Future was very easy. Ghostbusters was very easy because they had all the junks and stuff that needed to be replicated. They weren't just cars that you could go buy. And when I was a kid, I loved movie cars. I loved General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard, of course, and I loved Herbie from Herbie Love Bug.
Yeah.
So, and they both had the numbers on the side. Seem familiar? Hello.
Yeah.
It's one of those, if you grow. I mean, basically, we have like the grown-up Herbie.
Yeah.
The car picked us, the whole bit. You know what I mean? Really, it's kind of an amazing story. We were sort of broken down when I don't know if you know why we bought the car.
No, I don't.
Oh, when we thought I was going to die, I always wanted to get a 911 again. So we ended up, it doesn't matter, but we ended up going and getting that car. Horrible, irresponsible decision at the time, but it was one of those like...
May not get to have it any other time,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So cars has always been there. The movie props, the replicas, that's always been there.
And being a child of loving 80s movies, that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, come on. I mean, Goonies, all that stuff. But I would say the first prop I ever made, other than like the microphone and the Letterman stuff back in the day, the first prop I ever made at all would have been the time machine.
No kidding.
Yeah. And that was, I built it with a friend of mine at the time who had already owned and previously built a Ghostbusters car. So it was one of those, I think that's even maybe how we became friends, because he had a message board and a website and all that stuff way back. This is like the late 90s.
Did you foresee you would be somebody that would take on these massive projects like that? I mean, doing a model or doing a microphone is much different than restoring an entire car.
I don't agree.
Really?
I fully don't agree, because
Tell me more.
It's all about the details. If you're able to see the details and go to town on it. It depends on your eye and your artistic creator's perspective. You know what I mean? It's really the exact same thing, in that someone, like, say, maybe a charcoal sketch person would be like, all right, I could do you, or I could do that vase of flowers, or I could do that thing of books, or I could do that car. Like, it doesn't matter. That's there.
It's just all time. One takes more, one takes less,
Yeah, and the truth is, I don't know what could take more time than a Back to the Future time machine. I mean, it's probably much easier these days, but even that is due in part to the work that we were a part of,
Now, was that the first movie car that you were a part of? Because you were pretty heavy in the DeLorean community. When we met, I mentioned that I have a friend in the DeLorean community, and you knew him right away.
It happened the opposite way. I said, so what exactly do you do? And you started telling me, and I said, so would your competition be like can I say his name?
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
be like Adam the Woo, and you're like, yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. I'm like, awesome, okay, great, so we can talk. And then you said, oh, he's a huge Back to the Future fan. I didn't actually realize that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's funny you should mention that because I used to be involved in that. And then I pulled out the posters and the things for you to see.
Yeah, you have
Stuff
a
I haven't
poster
looked at in forever.
signed by Bob Gale. I mean, that is not somebody that you just get to run into every day. How? So,
We used to.
well, basically, what I'm trying to get to is, I had seen they made a documentary
Right.
on the restoration of this DeLorean time machine.
How was it?
That Universal let go.
How was it? I never got to see
Well,
that.
the documentary, I love documentaries, so seeing something like that from beginning to end was great.
Okay.
And what I hadn't taken into consideration was what you just said, the details. When you and I talked, you said you decided to bow out of that project because there were certain details that you didn't...
There were a lot of reasons why it all separated, but one of which was, I didn't particularly... Here's the deal. I'm incredibly happy with how that all got done. You know what I
Right.
mean? The fact that the car is not rotting away on the backlot anymore, success. Job
Absolutely
done.
agree.
You know what I mean? So everything wins. It's sitting at the Peterson Auto Museum in a climate-controlled environment that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's
And has
everything
been
is a
on
win here.
and it's been on display at Universal where fans could see it as well.
Right, all the above. So I don't want to come across as though I am poo-pooing anything or causing drama or anything like that.
Right.
I will say that from a fundamental standpoint, there are a couple different ways to do a restoration of a movie car. Stop. Hang on 1 second, because the Ghostbusters car, a couple years previous, was a prime example of how the fans didn't want to see it done. The car got restored, which was fantastic, but it got restored by an automotive place that makes these cars, and if they were doing it for the first time, nobody would really care, but they don't have the eye for the details. Plus, they don't really even know what they're restoring. They restored a bunch of crap that was not original to the movie. You know what I mean? They restored stuff over time and not in the right way, stuff like that. Nobody would care, but the people who really do care. All
Yeah.
of us nerds, we care about those details. We care that that's not the right
And there are
part.
a
It's
lot
the
of
this, the that,
people
the
that
whatever
care.
the heck. Of course. This is why I fit into the Porsche community quite well, because they're all very meticulous as well. Car people in general are very meticulous, German car people specifically. The Ghostbusters car got done by this automotive place, and a Ghostbusters purist might say, oh, well, they didn't do it right. You know what I mean? There's things that were missed or whatever. Now, cut to a couple years later, the Back to the Future car has the opportunity. Bob Gale and I go to Universal many times. Eventually, we get this thing done, whatever. It's going to be a project. The project is going to be done by the fans.
So cool.
Sounds great. And
Yeah.
it is great. The only problem for me is, where is the line? We know we don't want the auto mechanic guys restoring the car.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans sounds great. But once you get into what's going to be done and how and why, there began to be a divide. I personally thought it should be restored to how it was.
Battle
the
scars
movie car,
and
the
all.
movie car that it was, with the technology that it had, etc., etc., etc. My reasoning for that was that we all have these Back to the Future replicas. They all have this modern LED technology and all this lights and the bells and the whistles and all this stuff. But the original car didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It had some light up things with some transfers, and it was very junky and crappy. And almost disappointing to see the first time. That's part of it. That's the movie magic.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I would...
The realism comes into your mind.
That's
you
what
know?
I would have liked to have seen, yeah. Ultimately, it was decided that they would, just make this thing truly the most impressive thing you could see.
More of like a museum piece than a historical piece, almost.
Yeah, I don't know. The museum is the word that gets me there. More like an attraction, like a
Right, like a
roadshow
showpiece.
attraction,
Yeah,
a
a showpiece.
than a historical, significantly, I don't know, whatever, a
No, I know.
testament to what
Yeah,
it
you're
actually
right.
was.
You're right.
That's just my personal opinion about it, but that doesn't stop me from going over and looking at it when I'm at the Peterson. Doesn't stop the fact that these guys did a tremendous job, and it really doesn't take anything away from the people that were involved with that project. And this isn't no holds barred, could not have been the better people for the job. The people who did that job were the people who should have been doing it. They dedicated their life to it.
Absolutely.
I equate it to me and the Letterman desk and the Letterman microphone and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't another guy. There isn't another guy for it.
Yeah.
Joe Walser was the guy for it. He was the universal guy for it. Nobody loved it as much as him. Nobody dedicated as much of their life to it, their time, their effort, their childhood brain, all of that stuff being formed. So, you know, like I was saying, there's a little bit there with how it got done or whatever, but overall, obviously, it's spectacular.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And like I said, how I found, you know, you had mentioned that to me before, but then I went and kind of like started looking around and I saw you had done an ECTO 1, and that kind of blew me away because I had seen the video on them restoring the original and how well, for one thing, I'm blown away by how many of these historical cars get forgotten about and deteriorate away.
Yeah.
But then I saw how your ECTO 1 was immaculate. It was immaculately done, and I even saw some of the comments on there of people saying this is done way better than the original has been done.
I need to first off say, though, that wasn't my car. That belonged to somebody else. All I did was help with the Ghostbusters, you know, restoration of it and general maintenance of driving the car around and taking care of the car and everything. But there was a whole thing way back when with claiming ownership and stuff like that. Like, nobody's claiming ownership of fucking anything. I want to make that very clear right now. The car belonged to someone else. All I did was help put it together.
Right, but
that's what the video shows, but apparently, whatever. That car was awesome. I believe it's still in existence. I believe the same person still owns it, and it's really impressive. And it's only gotten better since then.
And your video is amazing because you are unveiling
I'm pretty sure, by the way, that's the one in the new commercial that was just, is there a Walmart commercial? Or somebody posted a commercial the other day with a bunch of movie cars. It is 100% for sure the car that I helped.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, what I loved in your video was that you guys are finishing it up so that you can go meet Dan Aykroyd. And Dan Aykroyd ends up sitting in the car, which I don't know if a lot of people know. Dan Aykroyd was the person who had the idea of the car. He came up with the original idea. It was supposed to be a
Blues
dark
Brothers
car.
As well.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a dark car with purple lighting and stuff like that.
Originally.
And then came to what we know it now. Mm-hmm. So cool. What was his reaction? Did he have a reaction to seeing it?
Well, we captured it. I mean, you could see that on there. There's a different video I'll show you that you probably haven't seen, where we did a different event with Dan Aykroyd, that I think he might talk a little bit more about it. I can't remember. He's into that stuff. He has a collection of, I guess they're not called commercial vehicles. What are they called? Combination vehicles? What do you call those? Like police cars and ambulances and there's a specific name for that.
Yeah, I know.
Service vehicles.
Yeah, service vehicles.
He has a collection of service vehicles. So he's into them. He's into that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I think that was just always his thing. I think they probably chose a 59 hearse because it was probably a little rare. You know what I mean? It's a little oddball. It's a little out there.
Well, they said it looked like when it was designed originally, it looked like it was meant to go flying. Like it had wing, like the fins and all that stuff.
In the back and everything.
And I saw on something where they were saying like what a challenge that car was on set because it didn't handle that well going around corners. Plus all the weight that they put on it with all the things, you know, everything that the Ghostbusters needed.
I can attest. I mean, I've done it.
And
I've done it. I guarantee far more miles than the Ghostbusters ever did. No, for sure, 100%. It's exactly what you said. It's a big boat that's top heavy.
Now, two more questions. One is. Have you done any other cars other than those two that I know of that are movie cars that?
No. Well, yes, but not other movies. I've had my hand in a ton of DeLoreans. I mean, of course.
Yeah, that's
the one that we had. The Joe Walser's one that he sold at an auction. There's a guy named Terry Metalis who owns one now. Joe and Terry were the ones on Jay Leno's Garage telling stories that actually happened to me. Bob Gale was telling a story.
No kidding.
Who gives a shit? This is how things,
but yeah, but that's
they can have it. This is how this works, though. But yeah, they're talking about these guys bringing it doesn't matter. The history of these things is as good as the last person who tells it. You know what I mean? So whatever. What was the question? Because I almost went a different way there.
Well, one of the questions was going to be. The first question was, have you done other?
Oh yeah. So a bunch of other DeLoreans and just always was sort of around for other people's builds there. Danny Bodkin. We all helped each other. You know what I mean? We all helped each other.
Yeah. A true community, the way the community should work, you know?
That was the goal.
Yeah.
And then you kind of realize that that's a pipe dream too, and then you can keep it.
Yeah, so I guess there's a difference between a community and sometimes the mentality of a private club, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know.
My other question was, do you think there's a possibility you'll ever be doing these in the future? Is there another car that you have your eyes set on that needs to be restored that has significance to you or anything like that?
If someone ever contacted me for it, I probably would get them in touch with the right people. It's not it really never was my thing. It was my thing that I was helping, rather it was other people's thing that I was helping them with because I was good at it for a while before I came into my own with my thing, and I'm pointing to the Letterman stuff here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was always my thing. And I knew it even back then. You know what I mean? I always knew. That's why it was like I had no problem walking away from it. No problem walking away from it. Once it was not for me.
Which says a lot, you know. Most people that have their hand in the history like you have would want the recognition.
You think it's going to be one thing, and it just never is. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
And then you either like what it is or you move on. And I have no problem with moving on. It's how some of the best things have come to me in my life, by the thing I thought was it not being it.
Yep, me too. Yeah.
So it's one of those, you were saying on our show today, if you live with the attitude where you're just kind of open to things and you walk through the open doors, but you don't necessarily beat them down, magic stuff happens to you without trying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what it was. I was always trying to shoehorn into a place. And then once I stopped all that and just figured out who Jay Ryan was, all of this stuff just automatically happened. And you see where we're going with it. I mean, I don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere. We're not stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
But that's why I was a little hesitant to talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of, my information isn't current anymore.
But
I'm aware of that.
Like I said, I just think that's such a cool part of your history that, you know, that the world has benefited from. I guess that's what I was getting from is you may not see it as being a big deal, but how many people have a day put their eyes on that vehicle that could have been sitting on the Universal backlot, deteriorating even more now, you know?
That's true, yeah. I want to give a huge shout out to Bob Gale, though, because truly it's him who got it done. I mean, I was just a guy who was sitting next to Bob Gale. But also for every nice thing he's ever done for me throughout the years, including well after the restoration. Huge shout out to Bob Gale. You've seen some of the notes and stuff.
Yeah.
He's just a genuinely good human being. And like, I mean that from a place of like, maybe there aren't all human beings. Like he's connected. And he's connected to stuff.
I'm sure Back to the Future fans love hearing that as well. So that's another good piece of good vibes to get out there is giving him the due he's. Thank you, Jay. This was awesome. I appreciate you.
Jordan, I'm a big fan of your channel.
About it.
If there's ever anything you want to know, by all means, come talk about it.
Oh, I will. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome.
Wow, what a great interview. I loved hearing all of those details. I mean, those are two iconic cars that I just can't even imagine taking on something like that, so it's pretty cool to hear those stories. Now we're going to head out of here and go visit the Joster. Hey, John, do you want to go see Kevin with me? We have to go drop off Kevin's tile art. Yep, that's right. We're going to see his reaction today. All right, we're heading out to the valley. My friend Kevin's out jogging at some park, so we're going to meet up with him there so Ja can play around and then give him his tile art and see what he thinks of it. Ja just ran into some of his friends over here. This is Skylar. Skylar is a YouTuber as well. What's your YouTube, Skylar?
Skylar Joy with Skylar the ER. So just look up Skylar Joy.
Skylar Joy.
Yeah, I'm really funny. So
she's a vlogger as well. Looks like somebody with a lot of aged appliances passed away or moved out or something. Jeez. There it is. Looks pretty good. Look at that sky. Well, good evening, everyone. We're going to call it a night. I hope you guys enjoyed getting to hear Jay's stories today. I know he doesn't think it's a big deal, but being one of the people that helped get the authorization to get the classic time machine from Back to the Future, just getting the authorization to get that whole restoration underway, I think that's worth getting some credit. So when I had heard some of the stories and I saw the videos online that he was involved in both those, I said, this is just a cool story. And you guys probably, you know, I said, I did a 40-minute video with that guy last week and didn't even get a touch on any of this stuff. So yeah, I just thought it was worth it. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.